Welcome to the class and thank you for attending. I hope that you had a nice weekend. On Saturday we had the class in relation to the first certificate and the level B2. It was the specific webinar on Saturday and it was really good. So we will continue next Saturday with the same webinar and more people are invited to attend. Sorry, I'm losing my breath. I just ran to let the dog into the house and now I returned. But today, so we have the free class this morning, and also in the afternoon at 4 o'clock we have a specific webinar in relation to grammar. So it's for everybody, all levels. So for example, the topic in grammar, we will begin with introduction, intermediate, and we will progress to all the parts of the specific topic. And every week we will do more topics. Okay, so that's the idea. From beginner to advanced, we will introduce all the information and little by little we will progress. So if you want to join the webinar today, just contact me and confirm your place. And just to show you the information, this is the webinar today at 4 p.m. specifically for grammar. We already have a few people confirmed, so that is fantastic, and the plan is to continue this webinar every week at the same time and just dedicate specifically to grammar. Okay, very exciting for some people and very boring of course for other people. Yesterday was very nice. So Sunday, the weather in Dublin was very good. The sun was shining and I think most people had a good time. I was in the garden for a few hours and relaxing, so it was a really good day. And today we begin the new week. So this is the 10th week of the year, and I think the 7th week or the 8th week of free classes. So I hope you are learning a little. I hope you are progressing. The structure will be very similar today compared to the other classes. So no big surprises. Welcome to everybody. If you are new, it's possible we have some new people, and it's possible we have a lot of regular. It's like a bar where you have the regular people come to the bar to say hello. So we have the regulars and we have some new people as well. On the left you can see the social media. So Instagram, I have started to use Instagram a lot more, and I have put some pictures recently on Instagram this morning and yesterday with the sun. So I have a mix of pictures, a mix of information from the class, and a mix of quotations. So maybe the Instagram is very interesting for you. Twitter is similar content to the Facebook page, very similar. And the YouTube channel has all the free classes available. I know some people prefer YouTube, so that's an option for you if you want to connect. The meeting in Zoom today is the ID here and the code here. So if you want to connect in this class today and to participate with speaking, it's a very good opportunity, especially if you have a particular question in relation to grammar or a particular question in relation to English. It's a very good opportunity for you to participate in the class, and for me it's also good to have a few people in the Zoom meeting to continue active the meeting. Okay. Yeah, so that was the weekend. Very nice, very good, and I hope you had a nice weekend. Today we will continue with the introduction a little. So you can see here we begin with the introduction document with the grammar. We then continue with the article from the BBC, and that is the plan for today. And after the article we have a list of phrasal verbs and a list of idioms. So that's generally the idea for the free classes at the moment, and also speaking practice is available if we have time as well. So that's the plan. I hope you will enjoy, and I hope we have no problem, of course, with the internet. Of course, it's always possible technology problems with internet, Zoom, Facebook, so fingers crossed everything will be okay. It's also possible a disruption with my favourite dog. You can see him and he will maybe make some noise at some stage this week, so just so you're not surprised, and he's very loud, so be careful. And also yeah, that's everything. So hopefully there's no disruption with family, because we have a lot of people at home, probably similar to you because of the restrictions. A lot of people have to work from home, and you probably have kids or friends or housemates or pets in your house. So let's go, and fingers crossed we can learn a little, and hopefully you will enjoy the class. So I will share the screen here, and we will begin with the famous introduction document. So every day for me this document is very, very important because it's the foundation of my class. During my class I mention a lot of technical vocabulary, for example phrasal verb, idioms, past perfect, present perfect, conditional, modal verbs, prepositions, pronouns, object pronouns, possessive pronouns. So during the class I mention a lot of technical vocabulary. So for this reason, at the beginning of the class it's very important that I introduce a little the concepts in relation to English. And some of you of course are familiar with the concepts, but it's still a very good idea and still very important for you to recognize the vocabulary and recognize the concepts. Okay, so also I hope you can understand me perfectly. There are subtitles and captions available on Facebook Live, so you can select the subtitles and the majority are correct, but there are some inaccuracies and there are some errors in relation to the subtitles, but I think still it's probably a good idea to use them if you want, okay? Because we have people with lots of different levels attending the class and from very different places. I think people in London, Brazil, Asia, Romania, lots and lots and lots of different places. So it's a difficult job for you to understand everything. Okay, so here on the left is the document, because for me there are three areas that are very important. The first area is called use of English, and this category for me is probably the most important when you are studying English. Yes, grammar and tenses are very, very important, but to really understand local conversation, to really understand native speakers in movies, on the street, in the shops, every day-to-day life, professional situations, this area of use of English I think is the most important for sure, because we have different English around the world, we have different accents, number one, but we also have different vocabulary and different local expressions and vocabulary. So it really depends on your location, and it depends on the people that you are speaking to with the quality of accent, the quality of English. And in Ireland we have a big mix. So for example, the accent in Dublin is a little different from the accent in Cork, and the accent in Cork is different from the accent in Belfast or Donegal or Galway, of course. So just to mention every part of Ireland, of course, but the accents are a big part when you're learning English. And for example, me, it's possible my accent of the U is very, very strong. For example, must, Dublin, butter, but phonetically in the book it's probably Dublin, butter, bus. So just be careful with me, and in Ireland with my accent in relation to the U. Also the TH is very strong in relation to Ireland and also in relation to me. For example, phonetically it should be this, that, these, those, Thursday, but sometimes for me and in Ireland it's almost like a D, this, that, these, those, Thursday. So just be a little careful with my pronunciation in relation to these three sounds. The other sound is O, for example, now, or house. Sometimes it's very strong for me, and that's just another point to be careful. But this is a perfect example of the challenge and the difficulty to learn English, because it is very, very varied. We have a lot of variety with accents, and it's very difficult, and it's a big part of learning and understanding English. Okay. Phrasal verbs and idioms are two very, very big areas. The first area, phrasal verbs, for me are so important. They're very unique to English. Other languages don't really have the concept of phrasal verbs. Basically, the concept of a phrasal verb in English is the verb plus the preposition, and it's possible a literal significance, but it's also possible a second completely different significance. And basically it's the verb and the preposition, and it looks very simple, it looks very easy, but sometimes the significance is completely different. So it's like a puzzle, you have to try and investigate and try to think about the possible significance of a phrasal verb. One example is in relation to maybe go ahead. So go is the verb and ahead is the preposition. So it's possible, literal, in relation to two people, you say to the other person, you go ahead. So you walk before me. But we use it as a metaphor in conversation. You go ahead. I stop speaking and you go ahead. Or I confirm my plans. I go ahead with the party. I will go ahead with the party. So it's flexible, but the concept usually is similar at the foundation, at the bottom. Okay? So we have thousands and thousands of phrasal verbs, and it's a very important area for you to really dedicate and to study and to recognize, because we use them very, very quickly, extremely quickly, with friends, with family, in the morning, afternoon, evening, professional, social. Every moment we use phrasal verbs, and it's difficult for you to catch, and I recommend to pay a lot of attention to concentrate to catch the phrasal verbs. Okay. Idioms are also a very, very important area, and idioms are like expressions, and I think every language has a lot of expressions to make the language more entertaining, to make conversation more interesting, to make everything a little bit more understandable, and we have a lot of idioms in English. Okay, thousands again. So this area is very, very important. And one example is a couch potato. So couch has the significance of a sofa, and the potato is like the vegetable. So it's a metaphor because the potato obviously has no movement. The potato just stays in the one position. And you can imagine the potato on the sofa, on the couch, is a metaphor for a person who has no activity, no interest, just sits at home and watches maybe the television, for example. That's the typical stereotype. And of course, at the moment, we are all couch potatoes because we cannot really go out and we cannot go to the restaurants or meet friends. So we are probably perfect examples of the couch potatoes at the moment. Okay, conversation and pronunciation is so important, and when you are practicing English, it's fundamental that you practice your conversation. It's difficult to find a person to interchange, but you have to try and regularly practice your speaking, and hopefully somebody will correct you. And for me, during the class, it's possible, if you want to join the class, if you want to participate, to practice some speaking. This is a big opportunity today, and also at the end of the class, it's a possibility to join and to practice as well. So that's the code for Zoom if you want to connect, because the class, I am on Zoom at the moment, and you can join whenever you want, and it's an opportunity to practice speaking. So pronunciation, of course, is very important in English, and we have a lot of irregular phonetics in pronunciation for English, and during the class I try to identify and try to help with the pronunciation issues that are particular to English. Okay, so that's the first area, and again, it's probably the most important in my opinion. The second area you can see are tenses in yellow, and the third area is grammar. But first, the tenses. So when you speak in language, you possibly speak in the present, you possibly speak in the past, or you possibly speak about the future. So in English, I want to explain some of the important foundation concepts for time in English. So for example, the simple, we have the present simple, which is one action you do regularly in the present. We have the past simple, which is one action that is completed or that you did in the past. But we have a lot of irregular verbs in the past simple, and this is extremely challenging and extremely difficult to master. But we have a lot of past simple irregular verbs. We also have the future simple, which is two possibilities: will plus the verb will go, or I'm going to eat, going to go. So there's the past simple, the future simple, and the present simple. We also have the concept of the present continuous, which is one period of time with the activity continuously happening in the present. We also have the past continuous, which is the period of time that happened continuously in the past, and the future continuous. The construction is the subject, the extra verb to be, and the gerund of the verb. You can see here the gerund, that's the ing. For example, I am eating, I am drinking. In the past, I was eating, I was drinking. In the future, I will be eating, I will be drinking. That's the continuous concept. Also the simple concept. And the final very important concept for today is the perfect. So we have the present perfect, which is usually the period in the past that's completed, it's finished, but the result is related to the present, and the consequence is very, very related to and relevant to the present. The construction is have plus the participle of the verb. So the participle is the third column, and one example is I have eaten my breakfast this morning. So it's finished, it's completed, but it is related and relevant to now, because at the moment I am not hungry. So that's the present perfect. The past perfect is the period in the past, usually before another action in the past simple, and the construction is similar to the present perfect, except the extra verb have is in the past. I had eaten my breakfast before my friend contacted me. I had gone to the cinema before I went to the restaurant. So it's usually the period in the past before another action in the past simple, and that's the general difference between the present perfect and the past perfect. A little more advanced, we also have the future perfect. I will have eaten my dinner when my friend will contact me. So that's the concept of the perfect, the continuous and the simple. We also have the idea of the infinitive, and the infinitive of the verb is basically the base or the foundation. To eat, to go, to drink, to have, to sleep. That's the infinitive, and during the class I mention a lot the concept of the infinitive. Okay. Conditionals. So conditionals again are very, very technical in the book. When you study the conditionals, it's very depressing because the rules for the conditional in the book are very, very plenty. We have a lot of rules for the conditional in the book, but in reality, in my opinion, it's less strict and it's more flexible, but basically it's depending on if. We use the word if. For example, if it rains today, I will wear my jacket. If I went to the match yesterday, I would have met my friend. So it's based on a condition and a consequence. But we have the zero conditional, first conditional, second conditional, third conditional, mixed conditional in the book. And it's definitely worth studying, and it's definitely important to analyze and to check. And during my webinars specifically for grammar, one day we will tackle every part of the conditionals. And again, today we have the webinar at 4 o'clock, so you remember the grammar webinar. I'm like advertising all the time, so sorry for this, but that's just today at 4 o'clock if you want to connect. And then finally, in relation to today and the introduction, the active, the concept of the active and the passive is very important and a little advanced, because it's very impressive when you use a range of grammar. It's very, very impressive when you use it correctly. So the active is basically the subject, the verb and the object, the ordinary structure, I drink the milk. And then the passive, you change the position. So you put the milk at the beginning and me or I at the end. So the milk, it's also necessary to introduce an extra verb to be in the same tense as the original verb. So the milk is plus the participle of the original verb, drunk by me. So that's the concept of the active and the passive. And I think in Spanish for sure you have the active and the passive, and I think in Portuguese you have the active and the passive. In Romanian, I don't know. In all the other languages, Thai, Vietnamese, Indonesian, French, German, I don't know exactly, but for sure in English it's important and it's interesting. Okay. Also, the reflexive is an interesting structure, to wash myself, to help myself. So we have some verbs that are typical with the reflexive. So that's just important as well to consider. The next third section is just other grammar topics and other grammar issues that I need to identify for you. So here we have, for example, the noun, in Espanol, substantivo, noun, article, adjective, adverb, modal verb, preposition. So for example, the noun in English is a person, a place or a thing. So there are millions and millions and millions of nouns. For example, head, face, nose, blanket, table, chair. We have so many nouns, but the point is every noun you need an article, and in English we have two articles. We have a or we have the. The is the definite article and a is the indefinite article. We have two pronunciations for a. It's possible a or a, and the two pronunciations are absolutely fine and possible. It probably just depends from person to person and location, so there's no problem. A house or a house. And there's one rule: when the noun begins with a vowel, a, e, I, o, u, the article, it's necessary an. That's the general rule. We have some exceptions, but the general rule, when the noun begins with a vowel, we need the article an. So that's the noun and the article. We also have the concept of countable noun and uncountable noun. So for example, the bottle. Is it possible to count the bottle? Yes. 1 bottle, 2 bottles, 3 bottles, 4 bottles. Water. Is it possible to count the noun water? Not really. 1 water, 2 water, 3 water? No. We count 1 litre, we count 1 bottle, we count 1 glass, but water, it's almost impossible to count. So this concept of uncountable is very important, particularly in relation to how much and how many. So how much is related to uncountable: how much water, how much time, how much air, how much chocolate. But how many is related to countable: how many pens, how many people, how many tables, how many chairs. So that's just important, the concept of the uncountable and countable. Okay, adjective. So the position of the adjective generally is before the noun. So you have article, adjective, noun. The big house, the small car, a huge person. So the position of the adjective is before the noun, and in Spanish and Portuguese it's a different position. This is the reason it's important in English. So that's the function of the adjective, is to describe the noun. The adverb, the function of the adverb is to describe the verb, and the adverb in English is normally ly: quickly, slowly, happily, dangerously. So here you can see a list of adverbs with the ly, and the function of the adverb is to describe the verb. Drink slowly, talk quickly. Okay, so adverbs are very important, and of course you need to be very familiar with the idea and the concept of the adverb. Modal verbs are very particular to English, and we have a list of modal verbs that are extremely common and extremely important. The first one is can. It's related to ability and permission. I can play tennis. I can speak Japanese. It's my ability. But also permission. I can enter the room. I can go to the city. It's my permission and my ability. Could, may and might are practically the same for possibilities and options, and may and might are probably a little more formal and a little more polite. So I may go to the cinema. It's an option. I might contact my friend. It's a possibility. It's an option. I could contact my friend. I have the ability. It's a possibility. I can. So these are very, very similar. Could, may and might. Probably the most common is could, and may and might are just a little more polite and a little more formal perhaps. Okay. Shall is typical for the question, and it's more formal, definitely. Shall we have a coffee? Shall we contact your friend? Shall we watch the movie? It's a question. Will we have coffee? Will we contact your friend? Will we watch the movie? It's a little more formal, yes, but it is very frequent. Okay. Should is typical for recommendation and advice. I should contact my friend. I should go and exercise. It's advice and it's recommendation. Should, very important, because we use advice and recommendations all the time. The same verb has the same significance as ought to, so the pronunciation is difficult because the G is silent. You ought to exercise. You ought to contact your friend has the same significance. You should contact your friend. Okay. And must is obligation. You have no choice. You must do the exercise. You must contact your friend. You must collect the children. Obligation, and it's a responsibility, and you have no option. That's the significance of the modal verb. Must is the same as have to. You have to collect the children. You have to do the exercise. It's no option. The big rule after the modal verb, the rule that's very important. After the modal verb can, the next verb is the infinitive. And remember, the infinitive is to go, to eat, to drink. But the rule, especially after the modal verb, it's necessary to eliminate to. So the correct structure, you must go, you might have, you could watch. The incorrect structure, you might to have, you could to go, you must to speak. Incorrect, incorrect, incorrect. It's an obvious error, and of course people will understand you, but it's just something that's a frequent error, and I have heard many times the mistake. So just to give you a little piece of advice for free. Okay. Of course, prepositions are very important, and in English we have approximately 150 prepositions. They are part of almost every paragraph. They are part of almost every situation. They are very small words, and they are really the key for learning and understanding English a lot. Number one, they're connected to phrasal verbs. So you have the verb and the preposition. So, for example, they're also connected to position, movement, and direction. So travel. I travel to Italy. So travel is movement. I travel to Italy. I go, movement, direction. I go where? I go to the city. So it's for direction, it's for movement. The same with talk. I talk in general, but direction, I talk to you. So prepositions are so important. Also position. So the ball is in my hand. Okay, the ball is in my hand. The ball is on my hand, under my hand, over my hand, beside my hand, in front of, behind, next to. So prepositions are so important, particularly for position, direction, and movement. Okay, and also there's a big association with emotion and prepositions. So particularly in the phrasal verb, you have the preposition and it's associated with emotion. So for example, up is normally happy, positive, creation, and down is usually negative, sad, destruction. Over is maybe to conquer or to superar in Espanol, to over. So you need to think a little like a puzzle with the prepositions and the phrasal verbs, because usually it is logical and you just need to understand the significance of the prepositions to really understand the phrasal verbs. The next section is typical. So here we have possessive adjective, we have possessive pronoun, and we have the object pronoun. So there's three categories that are typically confused. So the difference, for example, my football, it's possession. My football, your football, his football, her football, possession, adjective. But the football is mine. The football is yours. The football is his. The football is hers. Particularly his and hers is the confusion, because it's masculine and feminine, and for example other languages don't distinguish between the two. Or the third possibility, give the football to me, give the football to you, give the football to him or to her. So you just need to be very clear and very sure with that area, because it's a typical area to be confused by a lot of people. So I hope you can master and be very confident with that area. Okay, again, the difference between this, that, these and those is very important, and it's very simple explanation. So this is singular, substantivo, or noun. This pen, that pen is singular in a different position, so it depends on the position. This pen, that pen, these pens plural, and those pens plural in a different position. That's the big difference between this, that, these and those. We also have the difference between another, other, the other and the others. So another is typically before a noun in the singular, another day, another week, another year, and other is typically before the noun in the plural, other people, other days, other years. That's the big difference between another and other, and it's a frequent error again, so you need to be very sure and you need to eliminate that simple error. There are two other possibilities. It is possible the other, and when you have a choice or an option of two things, do you want this football or do you want the other football? Okay, so when you have a selection or a choice of two things, it's very typical to say the other. Finally, with the S, the others is related to a group of people. So do you want to contact or do you want to come to the city centre with us, or do you want to come to the city centre with the others, the group? Okay, so that is important for sure. Questions, how do you construct the questions is a big area, and during the grammar webinars we will discuss someday the topic of questions. The big area for me when you are learning and practicing English, the area of suffixes and prefixes is a big help for you to be very clear between the difference between verb, noun, adjective, adverb, and usually the suffix is a big indicator. For example, ance is usually noun, the importance. ize is usually the verb, to realize, to monetize, to fantasize. They're the three typical verbs with the suffix ize. Able is typically for the adjective, for example, manageable. So it's a big help to be very aware and to be very conscious of the suffixes, because it's a very big secret to understand the form of the word. For example, ly in the suffix is typically the adverb, quickly, slowly, happily. Okay, linkers, conjunctions are very important in English. However, furthermore, moreover, there are some simple linkers and there are some more advanced linkers as well. And that's it. So that's a very good solid foundation of English for today, and during my classes this is the structure I use, because I mention a lot the concepts phrasal verbs, idioms, prepositions, modal verbs, past perfect, present perfect. So now you have to try and be familiar with the terms, because it's very important in general to learn, and of course during the classes it's very important to know what I'm talking about. Okay, of course. So writing is also a very important skill, and if you want to practice your writing, you can send me your writing and I can correct your writing for the benefit of everybody. And we saw Maria's writing last week, and that was really good exercise and very important. Also, listening is a big area, and listening is a big skill. Sometimes during the class in the morning I play a video and to try and catch the accents and to catch the speaking, but also maybe in some webinars we can focus specifically on listening as well. And the same with speaking, maybe we can create a specific webinar for speaking and conversation only. Okay, and exam preparation is very important. For example, the Cambridge exams, first certificate, advanced certificate, proficiency certificate, and the IELTS exams are very important, and I have created some webinars in relation to specific exams. For example, on Thursday we have the advanced exam, Thursday at 4 o'clock, and Saturday at 1 o'clock in Ireland we have a specific webinar for the first certificate. Okay, super. So that is the introduction document. Remember, if you want to join the meeting, it would be very good for me, because I think we have to maintain active. So I'm just going to say hello just to maintain the activity in the group. But you are welcome to join with Zoom today to participate if you have a question in relation to grammar, vocabulary, or if you want to practice some speaking. That is the code for the meeting. And also every morning in the event dedicated to this class, I post the direct link for the class on Zoom. Okay, so now I want to continue with an article in relation to, here's the title. So the title is, you can see, 9 TV shows to watch in March. Okay, so this is a recommendation of 9 TV shows, and remember, a show is like a program, and here is just a review and advice about 9 programs to watch in March. Last week we spoke about Line of Duty. We also spoke about The Falcon and The Winter Soldier. And today we will begin with Sky Rojo. So obviously in English we might say Sky well, it's very difficult to pronounce this because it's a very Spanish word. And this is the picture from the program. I don't recognize the actresses. I don't know who they are. Maybe you do, and maybe you are familiar with the program. But this is a little review of the program, and I will begin with practicing pronunciation. So I will read the 2 paragraphs for pronunciation, and after the pronunciation we will analyze the vocabulary and we will talk about the grammar. Okay, so fans of writers Alex Pina and Martinez Lobato's global hit Spanish series Money Heist might have their interest piqued by this new series from the duo which they've described as Latin pulp. The story follows 3 women on an adrenaline-filled race to flee their pimp after a fatal turn of events at a brothel. Okay, so very specific vocabulary. Haunted by their past, the trio of Coral, Veronica Sanchez, Wendy, Lali Esposito, and Gina Yani Prado are in search of freedom. But first they have to live every second like it's their last, as they are chased by Romeo Aciandia, the pimp and owner of Club Las Novias, okay, and his henchmen Moises, Miguel Angel Silvestre, and Christian Enrique Okier. Okay, and watch the trailer here. So just 2 paragraphs, but we have some very important vocabulary and really, really nice expressions in 2 paragraphs. So first, obviously the fan is a supporter, but this is a typical error, this structure, because in Spanish I think it's soy fan de, but so the translation literally is I'm fan of, but the structure in English, I am a big fan. So this is the typical structure. I am a big fan of Netflix. I am a big fan of Nutella. I am a big fan of partying. So that's the structure, a big fan of, okay, because it's a very common confusion, particularly from Spanish speakers when they translate this sentence to English. I think the mistake is I am fan of. So you need to say a fan. Very, very simple, but honestly it's a very common error, and I have heard it many, many, many times, okay? But here it's just a noun in the plural. Writers, so typically the suffix er is the person, painter, writer, but sometimes it's or, director, and here it's the possession. So this is difficult vocabulary. A hit, okay, is the noun, a hit, but of course it is a verb to hit, and in Espanol golpear is to hit. Maybe in Portuguese it's very similar, but a hit is related to music. So if you are a singer, for example Lady Gaga has a big hit, so it's a new song and the song is very, very successful. Remember, success is the substantivo, success is the noun, successful is the adjective, and the verb is to succeed. So Lady Gaga has a big success with her music, her song, but she has a big hit because the impact of the song is amazing. It's a big hit. So it's logical because it's an impact, but the significance is it's very popular and very successful. Okay, so success is the noun, successful is the adjective, and the verb is very, very important. We say to succeed in plus the ing. This structure is very important, particularly in exams, because they test you this structure a lot. So I succeeded in contacting my friend. You succeeded in the past in having having a new telephone or getting a new telephone. But basically this is the family, and the family is very important. Success is the noun, successful is the adjective, and to succeed is the typical verb. So a hit is related to success, but it really means a big, big success. So the music song is a hit, the movie is a hit, it's a big success. Very, very good, okay? Again, series. So every week I think I identify this word. So singular, it's irregular in English, and it's a typical error because in Espanol it's una serie, it's singular, but in English it's irregular because always we say s, one series or a series. So that's just something you need to remember because it's a frequent confusion, and you just have to remember in English always it's one series with the s or a series, always, always with the s, okay? Also, money heist. So the substantivo is a heist, and the significance is like a robbery. So a heist is when they rob a bank. It's the noun to describe the action or the activity. So a bank heist is when they rob the bank. It's very difficult for pronunciation, and it's not so typical. It's very advanced, but that is the significance. It's related to robbing a bank. and in this case it's probably related to robbing the money in the series. Might have. Okay, so this is connected with the verb peaked. So the verb is to pique, and it's typical with interest. To pique your interest is like to attract, so or activate. Maybe your interest, and it activates your interest. So that piques your interest. But there is a different word as well, to pique, which is similar in pronunciation, but the significance is different. So to pique is in relation to performance. So imagine the football. At the beginning of the football match, you're very bad, you're very slow, you're very tired. In the middle, you improve, and this is your peak. And then at the end, you go down again. So to peak is to have your best moment. And the verb here is also similar in pronunciation, and it means to activate your interest. Okay, but here it's the modal verb in the past. So the present in the modal might peak, but in the past structure with the modal, we use might have plus the participle. Might have gone, might have eaten, might have seen. That's the structure of the modal verb in the past. And here it's the modal in the present, might peak, but because we speak in the past, might have peaked. That's difficult, it's advanced, but the past structure of the modal verbs usually is might have gone, may have gone, could have gone. Okay, so that's difficult. Again, this is possession. So my interest, your interest, his interest, her interest, your interest, their interest. Okay, our interest. So that's possession adjective. And you remember in the introduction we spoke a little about the possessive adjective. By this new series, so it's singular, but it's irregular in English because it has the S, this series. Because remember, this is for singular, so it's confusing. This pen, this jacket, this house. But because series is irregular, it's the same, this series, but it's one. Very good example, okay? The duo, the two people, they have described, so this is the verb have plus the participle, and the subject is they. So this is an example of the present perfect, because they described it in the past, but they continue probably to describe it as Latin pulp. And the typical preposition is describe something as. I describe you as a friend. You describe Ireland as your home. Describe something as is the typical combination and the typical connection. Pulp is related to music. And I think a very famous group, a very famous music band, maybe 20 years ago in Britain were called Pulp. And I think this is an equivalent, that's my interpretation, that this band, this group of three girls are similar to the attitude of the band in England called Pulp. The story follows 3 women, and remember, I know this is simple, but it is so common mistake. So you have one man and 2 men, so the plural is irregular, and you have 1 woman and 2 women. Okay, so singular is A and plural is E. So it's detail, very small detail, but if you want to really be good and normal with your English, you have to be familiar with this always, because it's a common confusion. Race, so preposition on is connected in this sentence with race. It's not typical, but on is connected with race. Race is the noun. The article for the noun is an, but the adjective is adrenaline filled. And because the adjective begins with a vowel, we need the N, an. For example, apple, an apple. House, a house. So the difference between a and an, because we have a vowel, it's necessary an. Also the hyphen, remember the rule with the hyphen. When you have 2 completely different words, adrenaline filled, you can connect the 2 words to make 1 word with the hyphen. Okay, adrenaline filled, race. This verb is very advanced, but very good, and very nice verb. So to flee has the significance to escape. So the present continuous, you are fleeing, and it's very typical for refugees, for places where there is conflict and there is war. So if there's a conflict in the city, the majority of people want to escape, so the majority of people flee. But the significance is very quickly, maybe without your possessions, without your things. So to flee is almost to escape. The past is fled. Okay, it's irregular, so the past is fled. But we have another word which looks very, very similar, but it's completely different. Pulga in Espanol, como Lionel Messi se llama es la pulga. But in English, pulga is a flea, and it's typical for the dog. So the dog has the flea in their hair. So the difference between to flee and a flea, okay, the pronunciation is practically the same. The pronunciation is the same, but the significance is completely different. So to flee is to escape, and a flea is like a little insect, a tiny, tiny, tiny insect on the dog. But for the people, we do not say, in your hair, for the people, we do not say flea. Flea is only for the animal, and for people we would say lice. So you might have head lice, and that's the typical word, an appropriate word for people, and flea is typical for the animal. So very, very good vocabulary. And we have another word as well, a fleece, with two E's. Okay, so a fleece is a type of a jacket. So you know the jacket that has like almost fur, similar to fur, but it's not exactly fur. Well, it could be fur, but a fleece is like a jumper, very comfortable and very warm sweater jumper, and that's the significance of the word a fleece. But there is another verb, informal, in conversation we say to fleece, and that's very typical in informal situation, and the significance is to rob. So to fleece somebody, informal, is to rob somebody. And I think I understand the significance, because maybe it's related to the sheep. So maybe with the animal, when you cut the hair of the animal, you fleece the animal. So I think this is the connection. So you take the hair from the sheep to put the hair on the jacket, and the significance of to fleece in the restaurant, you go to the restaurant and you buy one dinner, one plate, and they charge you €200. So you feel the value is very bad, you feel that they rob you. So it's very typical in informal situations. You think the restaurant fleeced you. So it's the significance to rob. But as I said, probably more typical in informal situations. Okay. There again is possession. My hat, your hat, his hat, their hat, because it's three people. And the pimp is the specific vocabulary, I think, for the man who manages maybe the prostitutes, I think is the translation for the pimp. And just to be clear, the translation in other languages, it's not every day I search for this word, but this is the translation in Arabic, Bulgarian, Chinese, Croatian, Dutch, French. Oh no, sorry, that's from Monday. There's the translation. So it's very similar in other languages. Pimp, okay, and maybe Spanish, Portuguese, it might be the same. Okay, so it's different in Spanish. Okay, so it's very, very specific vocabulary, but it is possible in an informal situation. Maybe you have seen the program on MTV, To Pimp My Ride. So the significance is to pimp your phone, for example, or to pimp your ride. It's very informal, and the significance is to decorate very extravagantly. So if you pimp your ride, the significance, your ride is a metaphor for your car, and you decorate, you design your car very extravagantly, very outrageous, a lot of colour, a lot of very trendy items, amazing. So to pimp your phone or to pimp your ride is to decorate also. So it's another significance. Okay. And turn of events is a very typical expression. So a turn of events is something that happened and maybe a quick change. So here was a fatal change, a very dramatic twist. Okay, so a turn of events is another good way to say a twist. Okay, and I hope you cannot hear the noise because I have a fridge. So I have my dog to my left and I have a fridge to my right. So it's possible you can hear the fridge at the moment. It's very noisy, but with the technology sometimes you don't hear it. And then again, specific vocabulary is the brothel, but the location, normally for a location we say at the cinema, at the restaurant, at the movies, and here it's the brothel, and the brothel is the house for the prostitutes, and the translation in other languages might be very interesting. So this morning we have very interesting vocabulary this morning. I hope there's no children watching. And the translation, okay, so here you can see in German, bordel. Yeah, so it's very similar in every languages, and in Spanish, Swahili. Okay, so you understand the significance. Haunted is very important vocabulary, and last week we saw this word haunted house, where the house with all the ghosts and all the bad spirits is the haunted house, but the verb is to haunt. And we have a few uses in English. For example, okay, so first we have the verb to haunt, and this is the typical action with the ghost, fantasma in Espanol. So the ghost returns to the house, the ghost returns to the person, and they frighten or they scare the person. So the verb is to frighten or to scare, and the significance is almost to haunt. Okay, so it means to return and frighten, to return and scare. But we use this in relation to a metaphor for a regret. So if you are a football player and you have a very bad match, a bad performance, and you lose the match, this memory continues to stay with you. So this memory of the bad performance haunts you because it continues to return and it continues to affect you. Okay? But also in informal situations in relation to a place that you frequent often, that you visit frequently. For example, typical for a bar. So this is my favorite cafe, this is my favorite bar, this is my favorite haunt, because you return and you return and you return. So it's possible in informal, very typical in conversation, that is your favorite haunt. Very good, really native level conversation, but it's very important. And then haunted house is very typical with the ghost, and in the movies, very common. Okay. Again, by, and then possessive adjective, my past, your past, my history, your history, his past, their pasts, and it's plural because it's three people. The trio of chorale are in search of. This is the typical construction. So the verb is to search. I search for. So the typical preposition is to search for a job, to search for a house, to search for a friend, to search for. But the substantive, we normally say in search of. I am in search of a job. I am in search of a house. So the two structures, to search for, I am searching for, present continuous, or I am in search of. So just be very sure, because they're very frequent expressions. Okay, in search of. Little detail, but very good example of the prepositions and the different structures. Okay, freedom. So this is the noun, the freedom, which is very similar to the liberty. Okay, so the freedom has the same significance of liberty. So the adjective is free. Okay, the adjective, and the other adjective is liberated. So just to be familiar with the different families. So freedom is the noun and free is the adjective. So just the difference between adjective and noun, of course, is very important. But first, they is the subject, have to, obligation, is the same significance as must. Live is the verb to live, and also you need to be very sure with the difference between the verb to live and the noun life. So vive la vida, live life. Okay, so this is a very good example, very important. So live is the verb and life is the noun, so to live, and the pronunciation is different, and life is the noun. Also we have an adjective live in relation to music, so that's a live music, but the pronunciation is a little different. And also we have lively is another adjective. The city is very lively. And we have a verb to liven up, which means to act or to behave with more energy, to liven up. Okay, but here's the verb to live, but have to, modal, live every second, like. It's the same possibility as if. So you could say to live every second as if it's your last, or to live every second like it's your last. So like is similar to as if. And also here it's the contraction, it is, and again possessive adjective, my last, your last, his last, their last. As has the significance here while. So as is very flexible. It's like como in Portuguese or Espanol, but in English it's possible while or because. So I am changing my jacket as it is dirty. This has the significance. I am changing my jacket because it is dirty. I am changing my jacket as you are in the restaurant. Has the significance. I am changing the jacket while you are in the restaurant. Okay. So there is a difference between as with the significance while and because. So it's very, very flexible word as. And typical for professions. You work as a doctor. You work as a nurse. You need to be very clear. I work as a nurse, as a teacher, as a doctor. Okay, so that's important for sure. Yeah, very, very good. And chased is the verb. Okay, so to chase somebody. The cat typically chases the mouse. We have some birds in this house. On the top we have some birds, and I can hear them, and at the moment they are chasing, I think, the bread, or so the verb to chase is very important. We have one idiom in relation to chase. The expression is to cut to the chase. It's very, very famous expression. I don't know if you understand. So to cut to the chase is typical in conversation. So I speak with my friend. I want to request a favor from my friend, and I speak and speak and speak and speak without speaking about the topic. I continue to speak, and my friend says, cut to the chase. And the significance is say what you want. Stop. We have another expression. Stop beating around the bush and just be direct. Okay, so there's two possibilities: to cut to the chase or stop beating around the bush. And bush is arbusto in Espanol, and beating is como venecer or golpear. So this expression means that this is the problem. This is the bush. It's a metaphor. It's the problem. And you speak and you avoid the problem. You're beating around the bush. So my friend says, stop beating around the bush. What's the problem? So it's a very common expression, and it has the same significance as to cut to the chase. Okay, so just to continue with the Zoom meeting to make it active. Hello again. So just to oh my god, what's happening? I want to continue to make the Zoom conversation active, and yeah, there we go. Hello again, because I don't want the Zoom to disconnect suddenly. So the pimp and the owner. Again, this word is very, very frequently confused. So the verb in English is to own. Okay, for example, I own is related to property. I own a car. I own a house. I own a television. It's my possession. It's my property. But the person is the owner. So I am the owner of the car. So the verb to own or the owner is very important, and it is confused frequently. But also we have another structure as well. My own pen, my own house, my own car, mi propio. Okay, so my own car, my own house, my own television. And then we have a final structure that's very important in this family. We say on my own. Okay, so on your own means lonely, very sad. So for Valentine's Day, maybe you are on your own. I was on my own on Valentine's Day, which is very sad. Well, actually, I was with my family, my sister, her boyfriend, the parents, and the baby. So I was not on my own, but still very, very sad. So on your own is that expression. We also have a second expression, by yourself. So it's typical with to do. If you construct the building on your own, the significance is you construct the building yourself with no help. And the second possibility is by myself or by yourself. So these two structures are very, very important. They're very simple and they're very frequent, and the confusion is very frequent also, so you need to be very, very sure with this expression. And then here we have difficult vocabulary, his henchmen. So remember, it's plural, okay? And henchmen is a very old expression for maybe the warriors or the soldiers. So in the army, you have the leader, and the henchmen are the security for the leader. So the leader orders the henchmen to kill. The leader orders the henchmen to do a job. So the henchmen are like your partners or your security. We have a few other expressions, and it's typical in conversation, informally, metaphorically. This is your friend and he's my henchman. Not really typical, but you can say my right hand man, which is more typical. My henchman. So not really the same, but this is very typical. My right hand man is like my assistant, my or woman, and it means that it's your secretary, almost similar to the concept of secretary. Okay, but henchman is more for the military and more for the warrior. So just the pronunciation of the warrior or a soldier. Okay, or security. So very good vocabulary. And again, the trailer. So we explained this word last week, specifically for the movie. The trailer is like the small clip. So the vocabulary is important. The verb to clip is to cut. So it's logical. You have the full movie and you cut a little to show the people. That's a clip. Okay. So the verb is to clip, and it's possible your mother maybe says, or your father, or your brother, to clip you behind the ears is the threat, amenazar in Espanol, the threat in English when your parent is not happy with you and they want to punish you, so they clip you around the ear. It's like a little clip. Also we have a paper clip. You have the paper and you clip the paper, so it's the same action to clip the paper. And for the movie, to clip is to cut. It's the same action because you have the full movie and you clip. So a trailer is a little different because the verb to trail is to follow. So you have a car and you have the trailer with the animal because the trailer follows the car. And that's the significance with the movie. So the little movie maybe follows the principal movie. It's a trailer. Okay. Okay, good. So that's just 2 paragraphs, very good vocabulary and just a good example of analysis of grammar, analysis of vocabulary, phrasal verbs, idioms, prepositions, possessive adjectives, past perfect, present perfect, modal verbs. 2 paragraphs, we have everything. So I recommend for you to practice when you are studying. You should, or you ought to, remember, you should read frequently. You should read magazines, you should read books, you should read newspapers, and at the same time you should analyze the text. You should try to identify verb, adjective, noun, article. This is really the best way to learn. So you have to read and analyze, but at the same time you need to be familiar with the structures and the terms and the concepts. So that's my idea and that's my structure during the class. At the beginning I introduce the topics, I introduce the terminology, and after the introduction I analyze an article for vocabulary, pronunciation and grammar and everything, and that's a big part of the class. So also listening is very important. Sometimes I show a video for listening and speaking. So now is the perfect opportunity. If you want to practice your speaking, please feel free to join, and maybe you have spoken before already. And don't be afraid, you can connect again if you want. I know we have some people who've spoken already, but it's a good opportunity to connect if you want, no problem. And if we have 2 or 3 people, it's possible we can have a group conversation. And also maybe we will continue the speaking a little after the class if you want. If nobody wants to join, that's no problem. We will maybe finish the class, that's a possibility. Remember today we have a grammar webinar, okay, but I'll put this here. Sorry, I'm going to move the details if somebody still wants to connect. Today we have a grammar webinar, but first remember everything is free, so I'm very happy to teach for free. It's a good opportunity during the restrictions. Everybody has to stay at home, of course. Difficult situations, people have lost jobs, maybe people are changing careers. So lots of people have different situations, but if you can and if you want and if you are happy to support and to donate to me, maybe €1 would be a big help. €1 or €2 is a possibility. It's an option, but your support will definitely help me to continue giving the free classes. Thank you to everybody who has kindly and generously helped me so far. People have donated and it has been a great help and a great support for me. So if you want, if you can, and if you are happy to donate maybe €1 or €2, it's possible by Bizum in Spain, number 1, with my telephone number. It's possible by Revolut, which is very popular also, with my telephone number. bank details if you want to transfer by bank on the bottom left, or by PayPal. I have a website on PayPal, or this code if you want to scan. That's a big possibility, and again, it would help me a lot, and it will be a big support, and it will allow me to continue working in this way. Remember, today at 4 o'clock in Dublin, 5 o'clock Madrid, and different times in other locations, we have a grammar webinar. So a webinar dedicated specifically for the topics of grammar, and we will continue with the grammar. I'm going to accept you here, but I'm just going to put you on mute before I finish. And so the grammar webinar today, the grammar webinar today is at 4 o'clock in Dublin, and we will focus on different topics every week. Again, beginners are welcome and advanced people. So I will explain the topic from beginner and progress to advanced, and also some exercises, and it's probably an opportunity for you to speak as well. So again, thank you so much. Now it's an opportunity to speak. I think we have Nixon. So I'm just going to, if people want to continue to stay in the class, that's a great opportunity, and I'll just connect with Nixon, and hopefully we can practice some speaking, or he has a question, and I'll make some notes here as well. Hello Nixon, I'm going to ask you to unmute, and then I think you can press on your phone. Yes, perfect. Hello. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm fine.
Okay, good. And where are you calling from? Can you introduce yourself a little?
Yeah, by Zoom, sir.
Okay, and what country? What country is that?
Oh, I'm from Indonesia.
Ah, okay, fantastic. And what time at the moment is it in Indonesia?
At 7:30 p.m.
Okay, so the evening. And what is your plan typically in Indonesia? What do you normally do in the evening typically?
Sorry, sir. So you sound not clear.
Okay, sorry. Normally, what is your routine in the evening? So normally, what do you do normally in Indonesia? What in the evening? For example, can you not?
Sorry, understand.
No problem. For example, exercise or reading or a movie or dinner.
Oh, yeah. Nothing, sir.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Because of restrictions. Because of pandemic.
Oh, yeah, because pandemic, yeah.
Okay. Okay, do you have any particular question? Maybe it's difficult the sound is maybe difficult for you, I'm not sure. Do you have a particular question in relation to grammar or relation to English, or any particular question?
For now, not, sir.
Oh, okay.
It's not question. Yeah.
Okay. So how is English for you? Is English difficult for you?
Yeah, English very difficult for me because I learn English by YouTube.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And for example, one person on YouTube, or different movies, or different people?
Yeah. By YouTube and by movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, by news. Yeah.
And do you have the opportunity to practice?
Not so.
No, okay. Okay, and in Indonesia, people speak English?
Yeah. I think maybe yes, because Indonesian, the language English not major, because the language use Indonesian.
Yeah.
Country Indonesian use language Indonesian, not major language English.
Yeah. And you think English is very similar to Indonesian language, or it's very different?
Yeah, I think very similar. Yeah.
For example, like prepositions. You have prepositions in Indonesia.
Yeah, I have preposition in Indonesia.
So, for example, in English, I say in. I am in the room. How do you translate in Indonesia? I am in the room.
Yeah, in bahasa.
Really?
In language.
Yeah.
Di ruangan ya.
So it sounds like in bahasa. You say in bahasa, which is similar to house. Is it similar to house? No.
Yeah, not room also.
Okay, so room and house have the same significance. In Indonesia, room and house have the same meaning, the same translation in Indonesia, room and house.
I think similar meaning.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, sometimes the house and room, and sometimes the people say same the meaning.
Yes, yeah. And for example, happy. What's the translation for happy in Indonesia?
Happy in bahasa bahagia.
So you say in bahasa again, in bahasa.
Yeah.
And what's the translation for in bahasa?
In bahasa bahagia.
And the
Happy.
Okay, so one word happy is very long in Indonesia. It's a very big sentence, a very long sentence.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you do? Do you study at the moment, or do you work, or maybe family and friends?
Yeah, now I'm still in office.
Okay.
Because in my place raining, so I'm waiting my friend come to my office.
Okay, very good. And what type of work do you do in the office? What's the type of work?
Yeah, I'm typing letter.
Okay. Is it difficult?
Yeah, I think not, because the letter use language Indonesian.
Is it very formal letter or very informal?
What, sir?
The letter, is it very formal, a very formal letter, or a very informal letter?
Informal letter.
So to a friend?
Not to my clients.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
And you meet your friend at 8 o'clock maybe, so what is your plan with your friend? What will you do with your friend? Do you, yeah.
I do to my friend?
No, for example, food. The plan. What is the plan with your friend? For example, dinner, maybe coffee. Do you? No.
Yeah. For now, not, because now Indonesian trade the COVID-19, so very difficult to go anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. So just a conversation with your friend.
Oh yeah, conversation to my friend. Yeah, just by phone.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, and your weekend, you had a nice weekend?
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday. What did you do at the weekend?
Yeah, weekend I didn't else, because I stay in home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's difficult moment with the pandemic.
Yeah.
And normally before the pandemic, what is your activity at the weekend? What's your typical activity at the weekend before the pandemic?
Yeah, before the pandemic, I meet my client, and then I did sometime my work.
Yeah.
My job. Yeah, like went to the police, like went to the court trial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So your
Sorry,
job...
Mr. My pronunciation English not goodly because I'm beginner.
No,
in English.
it's fantastic to communicate. It's really, really great, the ability to communicate. So your job is related to like legal situation, like law, police, the court, the judge. Your work is related to like in English we say the law. You understand? No, okay. Okay, Nixon. Thank you very much for connecting. Can you hear me? Okay, I think we lost Nixon, but thank you very much, Nixon, for connecting. That was a good example and a pleasure. And I just want to say thank you, Nixon, and goodbye, if you can hear me. No, okay, I think we lost him. Okay, great. So that is a good example of just speaking practice. And again, people are welcome to participate when they want. And that was great practice. So again, thank you everybody for connecting. I hope you enjoyed the class this morning. And again, today at 4 o'clock we have another class in relation to a webinar. So if you want to confirm your place or if you want to join, contact me and we can organise your registration for the class today at 4 o'clock in Ireland. So I hope you enjoyed the class. I hope there was no problem with the noise and everything, and I hope it was interesting. So thank you again and have a great day, and talk to you soon, especially the people that joined today. So see you later and have a nice day. Thank you.